Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. Stoic effort to eat everything in the buffet, but we failed miserably. So, item 5 of the agenda. I'll play for time. So we're just missing a couple of people. Right, we're certainly quorate. Item 5 of the agenda, that's to agree to confirm the minutes of the meeting held on the 18th of April. Do I see any dissent to the... Councillor Howarth.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, members, and welcome, Chair, to your first meeting as Chair. May I just ask reference to a response to the question I directed to Councillor Cabinet Member Catherine Maybe, reference to the A40 Abergavenny to Raglan Road. We don't seem to have had a copy of a letter sent to the Minister. Could she confirm whether that has happened or when will it be happening? Thank you.
But I can't hear what it was. That
Alpha Road.
Sorry, can we have muted mics, please, in the chat online?
At outlook.com.
Councillor Howarth, are you proposing an amendment to the minutes?
I'm inquiring because the minutes is quite clear, the question is quite clear, but I haven't received anything from them, and I do not want to bring another question to this council in the next meeting as reference to the question I put last time. I was hopefully going to receive something, I haven't received it. So the YouTube clip clearly states that there would be something sent, and I do, out of respect, members receive a copy of that letter which should have been sent to Ken Skates, the Cabinet Member. I haven't received anything. Thank you.
Right, that isn't an amendment to the minutes. I'll come back to that. Can we agree the minutes, please? Yes, that's proposed and seconded. All in favour? No dissent. Yep, thank you. So we're noting that you haven't received a letter, Councillor Howarth.
There'll be a copy letter, Chair, which hopefully the Cabinet Member should have sent. Hopefully, if she hasn't, could she send it and copy in members?
Yes, I'm sure she's heard that. Thank you. Thank you. Item 6 on the agenda, to elect a leader of the County Council and to receive notification of leader delegations. Do you have a proposal for leader of the Council?
I nominate Councillor Brocklesby as leader of this council.
And do I have a seconder?
I second that, Chair.
Seconded Councillor Crook. Thank you. And do I have any other nominations? In which case we can proceed to the vote. That's carried. Thank you. Congratulations, Councillor Brocklesby. And is there notification? Thank you, yes.
They never envisaged having a small woman as a leader, did they? I feel like I've hit the teacher's desk. Councillors, members of the public, I stand here before you for the third time as having been elected as leader of Monmouthshire County Council. And once again, I thank you all for the confidence you continue to place in me. The honour and privilege remain as fresh as they did 2 years ago. And the responsibility the role brings with it to serve the people of Monmouthshire never, ever leaves me. I stand here too, reflecting back and looking forward with absolute confidence that despite knowing that the next council year will be as challenging, if not more challenging for us, that we will proceed with determination, with confidence, and with an absolute authority to deliver on the promises that we made to the people of Monmouthshire. Looking back to last year's AGM, when I announced the coalition between Welsh Labour and the Green Party, together, red and green, we pledged to deliver the council's community and corporate plan, strong in the belief that our shared values and cooperation would make a real difference to the lives of people who live and work in our county. And we were right. In a year when councils across the whole of the UK were unable to balance the books or forced to cut and end services, we continued to deliver. We consistently fought for the quality, fairness, and the environment. These priorities drove us and continue to drive every decision we make. And true to our values, we worked in partnership with and for our communities. And Chair, I want to take the opportunity now to just name some of those achievements. It is desperately sad, as well as for me, a point of righteous anger that the cost of living crisis has deepened for the most vulnerable people in our communities, with as yet very little end in sight. What we can do as a council is to protect the most vulnerable, and we responded by strengthening our cost of living campaign website, which received almost 4,000 visits, almost double the number of hits compared to last year, which speaks volumes to the level of poverty and crisis that our residents are in. Yet, it was a very important part of signposting and coordination with all our partners in health boards, in the voluntary sector, our town councils, Citizens Advice Bureau, Mind, that working together we could contribute to improving the support on offer. We ourselves linked 79 people with poverty and benefit support and 4 people with food support. Our new Family Action Clubs gave 80 people in Wylesham and Chepstow access to good quality food for affordable prices on a weekly basis. In social care, we saw the opening of the Seven View Park, which is a marvellous demonstration of what it means to be mindful, thoughtful, and work in partnership with those who are going to live there, people living with dementia, to transform the service. It is truly world-class. And as an aside, I do recognise the journey to get there started under the previous administration. We now also support 1,500 adults with personal care and support needs, and the number of unmet hours has continued to fall from the depressing high of over 1,200 in 2022 to 300 at the end of 2023. Under that is a lot of hard work and transformation of services. It's still too high, it's progress, but we must continue till we meet all the needs, even in these most challenging of times. Our strengthened family support services are working tirelessly to assure that where vulnerable children can remain safely at home, they are supported to do so. The impact? Fewer looked after children. And our successful recruitment campaign is helping us reduce reliance on costly agency workers and stabilise our workforce. And we have prioritised the health and well-being of our residents, even amidst financial pressures. Over 1 million has been invested in our leisure centres, membership boosted by 20% above pre-COVID levels. We have worked with our partners in health, housing, mental health and civic groups to improve access for disabled people and other disadvantaged residents. And we have a renewed passport to leisure opportunity which keeps our services affordable to all. For our most vulnerable and disadvantaged children, we now have an inclusion team, bringing together the range of specialisms that provide focused support for those children who do not fulfil their potential, often those who are most vulnerable economically, deprived or failing to thrive. We are seeing signs of success, and we will redouble our efforts. And I'm particularly proud that children with additional learning needs now have access to a network of special resource bases across the county based in local mainstream and very much part of those schools. We've provided specialist staff and support, and this has enabled us to dramatically reduce the numbers of children being sent out to our country provision, so many miles from home, friends and family. What's more, we were one of the first authorities in Wales to provide free school meals for all primary pupils, going beyond the statutory duty to try and ensure that all children can be guaranteed a breakfast before school and a lunch cooked from scratch at lunchtime. This too will help our children, all of them, learn and thrive. On the travel front, we have invested 5.5 million of Welsh Government active travel funding to support our sustainable travelling networks accessible and making them accessible to everyone, including wheelchair users. We have faced the crisis in bus provision full on, and it continues to be hugely challenging, but we have kept our services running with some timetabling changes, and progress continues through our recently agreed local transport, sustainable transport strategy, and are working on with the regional transport strategy. And we will not give up on making sure that we have a network that is connected of buses, active travel routes and trains in our county. Progress also continues on the Mago Walkway with the support from the Burdens Unit and the Welsh Government. And in housing, yet again, we have increased our social housing grant programme from 1.2 million in 21 to 22 to 9.7 million last year, with a good pipeline in place for this year. And I am so proud that the trend downwards continues for the number of homeless people needing accommodation and progress in moving away from bed and breakfast accommodation to safe, better quality temporary accommodation. We also can celebrate our first 100% affordable housing development in Caldicot, which now has planning consent, and bringing also a total of 62 affordable homes into the pipeline and 70 affordable homes that we delivered last year. That is already moving far ahead from works done in the previous decade. And we are changing the way we communicate and work with communities. Through our Make Your Mark survey, thousands of young people are at the centre of planning for our youth services. Our community hubs are safe, warm and open spaces for our community groups to meet, helping to combat loneliness, bringing people together. Working in partnership with Gavo, 20,000 has been dispersed to support communities become more self-reliant and resilient. And over 1,000 residents have been involved in developing our plans to achieve the World Health Organization age-friendly community status. Over 1.4 million hits on our website, and our budget consultation process reached more residents of all backgrounds and ages than ever before. That's a start, councillors. We still have more to do, but we are moving into a direction where the conversation and dialogue that we have with our residents and our partners becomes a continuous one. And part of that, something which gives me joy and has given joy to our staff and the people who joined us is the way we are opening our doors to support and celebrate the rich diversity of our Monmouthshire communities. And there's been so many firsts. Aerial acrobats tumbling in the air above reception, a fire eater flaming a welcome at the entrance to Country Hall, art installations, jazz band and singers as we honoured the nearly 300 artists and performers living in Monmouthshire. Another iftar held jointly with our friends from Monmouthshire Muslim Community Association. Black lives, culture, food and black histories told and shared here in County Hall as we celebrated Black History Month last August, and we will continue to open our doors. County Hall is for every one of us, staff and all our residents. Turning to Cabinet, I am making no changes. Every Cabinet member has shown by their skill, understanding and dedication that they can and will find solutions and innovative pathways to tackle the unprecedented challenges facing our residences, our businesses and our council, day in, day out. And despite setbacks, they will deliver our promise of a fair, greener and stronger Monmouthshire, and I thank them for all their work. I do make one small adjustment to the portfolios, reflecting the reality of our work. Digital and information technology will no longer be an area of special responsibility under the remit of the resources portfolio. Our use of digital technologies is now mainstreamed and across the council. However, there will be a particular focus on how we use information technology and digital platforms for whole of authority performance and review and evaluation, which is in my remit, and for citizen engagement and experience, which is part of Councillor Sandler's portfolio. Lastly, and I feel that it is in the air today in Council, because we have all who've spoken made mention to the values of our council. And I would remind you, this is what we have in common as county councillors serving the people of Monmouthshire: openness, fairness, flexibility, teamwork and kindness. And as we move towards a general election, it is inevitable there will be tensions and there will be impacts on the council. But councillors, we have a choice about how we want to be seen as a council. At a point where public trust in politics and politicians is at the lowest point for decades, we can choose to add to that perception or, together, stand fast to our Monmouthshire values, showing by our actions in chamber, in scrutiny, in our wards, as public representatives, that there is a different kind of politics, a politics of compassion, of mutual respect, and willingness to collaborate for the benefit of the people of Monmouthshire. When we do this, council, driving through our priorities for a better, fairer future for everyone in Monmouthshire, we are at our best. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor John. Is there a...
Thank you. Yes, please, Chair.
Okay.
Thank you. Leader, can I be the first to congratulate you on your re-election? I'm the only other member of this council who I think really understands the pressure and the burden that you carry as leader. It's a privilege, clearly on behalf of the residents of Monmouthshire, and it's a role that I know you take incredibly seriously. As I say, it's a great privilege to undertake the role of leader. It has its challenges, frustrations, limitations. Delivering change at a pace that meets public and member expectations is always difficult, as is explaining to the public some of the financial challenges and the tough choices that need to be made, often between a series of unpalatable options rather than decisions that perhaps we might want to take. it's a demanding role, and I remember being in back-to-back meetings during the day, doing visits, and often it would only be in the evenings when you have a chance to catch up on emails and a lot of important correspondence from a wide range of stakeholders and partner organisations. Of course, your casework from your own ward, and also all the residents from all over Monmouthshire, beyond your own ward, that choose to write to you as leader. So I absolutely understand the pressures of the job, and while we have our political differences, I congratulate you on your re-election and understand the pressure that you take. The two of us, I think, have had a positive and constructive relationship, and I'm really grateful to you for the time that you've invested in that as well. Over the next year, we'll continue, as we have done over the last 2 years, to hold you and your team to account, but we'll do so in a constructive way with the best interests of residents at the forefront of our minds. Inevitably, we disagree with many of the decisions that you've made over the past year, and we feel that a number of those decisions have made life more challenging for our residents. But I don't think today is the time to play that out. But I would like to say that I hope that over the course of the next year that we can treat each other with respect and thoughtfulness, irrespective of whatever political events may take place in the second half of this year. None of us know how long we'll be councillors for. All of us are grateful to our residents for putting their trust in us to undertake these roles to represent them. So for as long as we're here, let's be bold, let's be brave, let's make those difficult decisions, and as an opposition, we will support you when we think you're doing the right thing. So I hope we can move forward in that sense of cooperation with robust scrutiny, but at the same time working together where we can identify common ground. So congratulations, Leader, and we look forward to working with all members in the year ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Chair. May I also congratulate you on your election as Leader of the Council from the Independent Group, and in common with Councillor John, I think we'll also very much seek to hold the administration to account constructively. However, from our point of view, we're not particularly interested in playing out political differences in this chamber. Indeed, we would ask all of our colleagues across the chamber, as far as possible, to refrain from doing that, particularly in the lead up to a general election. We don't think it's particularly helpful for our residents, and we don't think it's what those who do take an interest in the council want to hear. It also doesn't really make for good debate when we are discussing matters which are relevant to Westminster and to Cardiff Bay, but actually, and may have a bearing on what happens to our residents. I do appreciate that. But where we have no power or control over those matters, aside from to perhaps lobby, it doesn't necessarily mean that we should spend a great deal of our time here reflecting on those things. If I may, Chair, one point I did want to reflect on in something that the Leader just said was the point of digital, and the point at which I do appreciate now that so many of our services are, that is commonplace, that is day in, day out. But the Leader referred to the cost of living crisis, and she referred to older people. I've recently had an experience where I've been supporting some older people to access the support of our, I have to say, excellent shared resource service, the shared benefit service, the service we share with Torvine Council. However, my great frustration was in trying to support them to access the housing service and to make an application to be on the Common Housing Register. It does seem that if you are not able to access digital, then it is incredibly difficult. Indeed, just to make a referral to do so is difficult. And so the one thing I would ask in that speech that the Leader made is that perhaps this is something that we could give a little consideration to make life a little easier for those who perhaps haven't had the experience of trying to access support previously, and for whom we really do need to make it easier to do so. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. That takes us to item 7, representation of political groups review. Councillor Sandals.
Diolch, Chair. It's a legal requirement for Council to review the representation of political groups across the Council's committees. This report sets out the allocation of seats for the Council's committees on a proportional basis that reflects the representation of each of the Council's political groups. The calculations that are set out within the report lay the basis for the subsequent reports in relation to the appointments made to the committees and outside bodies. In brief, Council is recommended to endorse this report. Thank you.
I don't see anyone wishing to speak, in which case we'll move to the vote to approve this report, the recommendations. Really? That's carried. Thank you. And item 8 on the agenda, the appointments to committees. Councillor Sandals again.
Thank you, Chair. This report seeks to confirm the membership of the Council's committees and their terms of reference for the forthcoming Council year in accordance with the Council's constitution. The report also highlights that it is the responsibility of this Council to appoint the Chair of the Democratic Services Committee. Unless a member wishes to speak specifically on the appointment or committee structure, can I recommend that group leaders email Democratic Services to confirm their appointments to each committee, and we move to receiving nominations for the Chair of Democratic Services Committee. I will hand over to the Chair to invite nominations for the Chair of Democratic Services, if there are no questions. Diolch.
Thank you. So I'm asking for nominations for the Chair of Democratic Services. Councillor Powell.
This is the right one. Thank you. I would like to nominate Councillor Rachel Buckler, please.
And do I have a seconder?
Yes, I would like to second that. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Harris?
Thank you, Chair. Could I also nominate Councillor David Jones, please?
Thank you. And do I have a seconder?
Chair, can I second that?
Certainly. We'll go straight to the vote for that, which is there. Thank you. So Councillor David Jones is elected. Congratulations. I'm going to call on Councillor Sandals again. The next item on the agenda, item 9, appointments to outside bodies.
Thank you again, Chair. Similar to the previous report considered, the Council is required to appoint members to outside bodies to ensure this Council has a voice and is represented on various organisations. The current appointments to outside bodies is attached to this report. A number of the appointments to the report are for the term of Council and have already been agreed at previous AGM. There are a number of new appointments included in the outside bodies report this year that require this Council make appointments to the Cardiff Capital Region Corporate Joint Committee. Two of those positions will be occupied by the relevant Cabinet member on the Regional Transport Subcommittee and the Strategic Development Subcommittee. The positions that require Council appointment are a non-executive member to sit on the Governance and Audit Subcommittee of the CJC and two non-executive members to sit on the Joint Overview and Scrutiny Subcommittee of the CJC. The two appointments will require a primary appointment with voting rights and a secondary appointment with voting rights only in the absence of the primary appointment. Again, unless a member wishes to speak specifically on the existing appointments, I recommend that we receive nominations from members for the appointments to the CJC. Thank you.
1 second, please. First of all, I'd like to move that we accept the recommendations of the report, and then and then after that I'll move to nominations. So first of all, we will vote to approve the report, the recommendations. That's carried, thank you. Now we'll be looking for nominations for, so there are three. Excuse me.
It's the governance audit.
Councillor Sandals, could you just remind me of the three posts that were positions?
4.
Is it 4?
Of course, apologies. A non-executive member to sit on the Governance and Audit Subcommittee of the CJC and two non-executive members to sit on the Joint Overview and Scrutiny Subcommittee of the CJC.
Thank you. So nominations for non-executive member of the CJC.
I nominate Councillor John Crook to the Governance and Audit Committee of the CJC, Cardiff Capital Region.
Councillor Callard. Are there any other nominations for that post? Position? No. In which case, I'm going to, rather than set up and... Yeah, I see no dissent in the room. Yeah, we can take that as chosen. Thank you. And the next one was... Sorry. Two posts, the primary and secondary. James. Thank you.
Yeah, so the a primary and secondary member of the Joint Overview and Scrutiny Committee of the CJC.
So nominations for the primary member.
I nominate Councillor Armand Watts.
And do I have a seconder? Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Grucott. Do I have any other nominations? Is there any dissent to that appointment? I see no dissent, so we'll carry on. And then the secondary member. Do I have any nominations? Councillor Johns.
Can I nominate Councillor Jan Butler, please?
And do I have a seconder? Oh, sport for choice. Thank you. Thank you. Do I have any other nominations? No, in which case, do I see any dissent? I don't, so we'll take that as selected as well. Thank you very much. Item 10, we go to the Standards Committee, appointment of independent members. Councillor Sandals.
For a change. Thank you, Chair. This report seeks Council's approval for the appointment of 2 independent members to the Council's Standards Committee. A recruitment process was conducted in accordance with the legislation and interviews were conducted on the 8th of May 2024. The interview panel has recommended the appointment of Andrew Blackmore and Ruth Price as independent members of the Standards Committee. Council is asked to approve those appointments.
Thank you, Councillor Sandals. I think we should move to the vote for that, to vote in favour of accepting that recommendation for those 2 appointments. That's carried, thank you. Our next item of business is, we're moving on to members' questions. So the first question is question from Councillor Dimmock. If you could read your question aloud, please.
Thank you, Chair. Earlier this week, I got to visit ARW Primary School to discuss the role of being a community leader. It was a real privilege to speak to the little budding leaders in Portskewett. The schools, the classrooms within the school were magical. I wish there was fairy lights when I was in primary school. It makes it very different. It was clear to me how passionate the team are there. However, we discussed that they've reached capacity in some year groups that we have spoken about previously. They desperately need nursery provision in Portskewett with the increased development that we've seen. So, Councillor Grocott, sorry, stumbling my words today. With all the new families moving into the area, can you please provide me an update on the expansion and the Section 106 coming from Castle Church Road development, sorry.
Thank you, Councillor Dimmock. This project is different from other capital projects that the Council would ordinarily deliver because Archbishop Rowan Williams School is not one of our local authority maintained schools. It's a voluntary aided school of the Church in Wales, and therefore the buildings belong to the Monmouth Diocesan Trust, not to the County Council. In order to ensure that our partnership is progressed in an appropriate way, officers have so far met with the head teacher, the chair of governors, the diocesan trust, to discuss this Section 106 funding. And I'm pleased to say that they have asked the County Council to take the project forward on their behalf. I'm able to confirm to Council today that architects have been appointed to undertake a master plan of the site and to provide options for increasing the capacity of the school and provide accommodation for a non-maintained nursery and wraparound childcare. This work will be completed within the next 3 months. The master planning must be mindful of the funding stream, and it is important to note that whilst the Church Road Section 106 funding has now been received by the Council, the Crick Road funding will not be received as and when the houses are sold and in line with the Section 106 agreement. Therefore, the plans and phasing of the project is extremely important. But I hope you can be reassured that there will be major changes for the better at Archbishop Rowan Williams as soon as possible.
Thank you. Can I just come back in?
Yes.
I don't have a supplementary question, but I just want to say thank you ever so much, and I welcome this, and so will my residents. And exciting times ahead for Port Stewart. That's amazing. Thank you.
Indeed. Thank you, Councillor.
And the next question from Councillor Dimmock. Councillor Dimmock.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Councillor Maybe, you kindly visited my ward back last June and you walked along Crick Road to experience the dire condition that it's in. It's been poorly maintained over the years and it's a hot topic in my village. I'll revert back to my meeting of ARW budding leaders. I wasn't expecting any questions when I attended the primary school with regards to road quality. However, a little hand was raised and I was asked, my dad wants to know when Monmouthshire County Council are going to repair Crick Road because it's very bumpy. And I must say, that little man was spot on. So, even though he can't drive and he can't vote, I'm here today asking when that road is going to be brought up to standard. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, Councillor Dimmock. Yeah, I was really shocked when I looked at my diary and I realised it was a year ago that I visited it with you. And I'm really sorry I haven't been able to solve the problem. I'm painfully conscious of how long it is. And it's a great answer, a great question from your resident. What I did check in with officers, and I do regularly, just to try and find out what our programme's looking like. What they've told me is that Crick Road is inspected every 3 months, and there would certainly raise any concerns regarding the safety of the carriageway, but it's not high up on the priority list. In terms of the resurfacing, I'm afraid. Going by the methodology for identifying and prioritising roads that require full resurfacing is not at the top of the priority list. I think what I would say is that we've set aside, as you know, additional funding for highways to tackle small patching schemes for the next 3 years, and I know you're particularly concerned about that bit between the new housing development, that end of Crick Road. It's not the whole of Crick Road that you're talking about. So I will follow through with officers and see if there's anything what you can do. I wish I could make a promise here and now, but I don't know what I can do, so I will follow it up again. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Dimmock?
If I could just come back in. Obviously, that road connects the Elderwood development into the village, so it is important that it's of good condition. It's also not suitable for high volumes of traffic or large vehicles, one being the school transport that goes down along Crick Road. They should be using Caldecott Road, in my view, and I would welcome further conversations with you to discuss that, because that may help once you've carried out these patch repairs to keep it in good order rather than it falling apart like it is. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question, third question today, is from County Councillor Richard John.
Thank you, Chair. What legal advice has the Cabinet received since the last council meeting about the administration's tender for dairy products?
Thank you, Councillor John. I can confirm that legal advice has been sought in relation to the procurement process, and that the advice received is that the Council has acted properly and lawfully. Nevertheless, I refer Councillor John to the motion passed at last Council and the administration's intention to review the supply of milk and dairy products and undertake a procurement separate from the All Wales framework, with the objective of achieving greater local sustainability and decarbonisation.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Leader. Members will recall that in the debate last month, we revealed how the original tendering documents were littered with mistakes, that you accidentally included all local private schools in the tender, that bidders had to explain how they could supply milk to schools in single-use plastic bottles, which was subsequently changed post-tender, and how you awarded the contract to a company with a damning food hygiene record, which included storing food on the floor and on pallets next to building materials. In light of those findings and the commitment you've given, you are going to re-tender the contract within 6 months. What changes do you envisage making to those tendering documents that will be shared with potential bidders for that contract? Because, of course, if you just put out the same documents as before, you could get the same result. So what changes do you envisage making before those documents go into the public domain, please?
Thank you, Councillor John. I'm somewhat disappointed that you continue to make statements which are misinformed and were corrected at last council. I don't want to rehash that particular argument because it's already on record in various places. I would remind council that the All Wales framework for food procurement is coordinated by the county and borough of Caerphilly, of which we and another 19 bodies are part of, health boards and local authorities. And the tender that went out was a generic one that included all potential schools and had different lots in it. It was also generic, and that was part of the issue. I'm not denying that. We are looking at the legal possibility of a direct procurement, which would indeed be the you're referring to, our own council. And when we are confident that we can proceed, I will let councillor know. But we must fall within the legal guidelines. Meanwhile, we are indeed working with suppliers and producers and logistics, talking to them about their needs, as I said in the previous council, holding soft market discussions and looking at what would need to be in the tender so it was legally acceptable, that the process met the needs of all our suppliers, in particular our local suppliers. But as was said before in council, we cannot use the word local, whether it's direct or otherwise, and that is both national and international guidelines for procurement. But we are working at the moment to see ways in which we can develop a tender document that meets our needs and enables us, as I said, to have a supply chain that is sustainable and helps with decarbonisation.
Thank you for the response.
Thank you. And question number 4 is from County Councillor Jane Lucas.
Sorry, thank you. Would the county member, County Councillor Paul Griffiths, Cabinet Member for Planning and Economic Development, please, could he explain for me what discussions have the Cabinet Member had with local business groups about free parking in Monmouth, please?
Thank you, Councillor Lucas. Formally, I meet with business representatives of all our towns on a regular basis. At the last meeting on the 19th of March, we discussed the many challenges and opportunities facing Monmouth and our other towns. I was able to announce that we will be undertaking a review of parking charges across the county. I do not recall any specific proposal at that meeting for free parking in Monmouth.
May I come back, please? This last week just gone, free parking has been announced for youngsters to get to exams, and yet not for the shopkeepers or for the whole town. Now, yesterday I took the time to go and visit the town, which I cannot believe to tell you how bad it looks and how unloved it looks. I went into a number of shops, and a few which wish to go on record. So, for example, Hancock's the butcher wishes to have somebody like yourself to actually go and spend some time there and see what's actually happening. Evie, likewise, would like to hold a public meeting with you and the people that she's concerned with. Are you able to do that for them, please? Because they would like to hear and have a voice heard from themselves and not just from the Chamber of Commerce. They'd like you to go onto the ground and visit them. So can you please explain why the shopkeepers feel unprotected, unloved, uncared for, not wanted? I can keep going on, but basically...
You've also asked 2 questions so far.
All right, well, they're not happy. They're paying their business tax and they're not happy. Thank you.
Thanks very much, and I'm certainly willing to meet any of the businesses in Monmouth, and if you can work with me to arrange such meetings, then we'll ensure that they take place. I refer to a formal meeting. I'm regularly in Monmouth amongst the other towns, and I meet businesses on an informal basis, and I recognise the challenges that they face. The Welsh Water investment, which is necessary. We all complain about a lack of infrastructure, but introducing it has its challenges. And that is causing disruption to the town. I will share a reflection of my last meeting to Monmouth, which was last Saturday morning. And despite all the difficulties, I know it was one of our few sunny days of spring, but I'll share this because I do want to lift the air of despondency. It was an uplifting experience to be in Monmouth, and I encourage everyone to share it. I went there for the park run, 200 runners, 30 volunteers in Shippenham Fields. A large proportion of those people came into town and enjoyed the town, but we weren't alone. An organisation dear to my heart, which organises children cricket, had about 200 children playing cricket on Shippenham Fields. In parallel to that, I didn't watch it so closely, the local soccer team was doing its children's training as well. They were all there because of voluntary action. They were there because this council has invested in the facilities that they are able to use. Those people are in Monmouth, despite all the difficulties, and they were flooding into town. The cafes were absolutely bursting. There was an atmosphere of joy in the town, if only because of the sunshine, which was rare. And the pavement cafes were full, and it was a great place to be, and I encourage others to go. So I rehearse all that because when local people, through their voluntary organisations, working with the council, working with businesses, we are well able to create the vibrant places that we want our towns to be. There's always more to be done, and I'm willing to meet as many businesses as Councillor Lucas introduces me to. Thank you.
Thank you. And our 5th question today is from Councillor Davis to Councillor Catherine Maybe.
Thank you, Chair. To ask the Cabinet Member to confirm the total number of fly tipping cases recorded in the past year and the number of successful prosecutions. Thank you.
Thank you. It's actually my question, Councillor Davis, if that's okay. Thank you for the question, which is important to all of us as it affects residents, visitors and people working in Monmouthshire. In the year 23-24, there were 633 incidences, taking an average of 4.8 days to clear. This includes the bigger, more difficult to reach incidences and those that require specialist support, such as those containing asbestos, etc. Our usual response time is actually 1 day. During this time period, we issued 1 fixed penalty notice for breach of householder duty of care, but have several ongoing investigations which may lead to enforcement action. This includes collaboration with Newport and Torvine in the prosecution of an individual for fly tipping across the 3 counties. There were 3 incidents in Monmouthshire. They'll all be heard in court shortly. Enforcement figures may seem low compared to overall incidents, but the vast majority of incidents do not have any evidence present. There might be a few tyres, a fridge and a TV, and they'll be unlikely to contain an address. Also, it might be helpful to know that an all-member workshop is planned soon to discuss enforcement of fly tipping, litter and our favourite problem, that of dog fouling. And it's planned in the near future, and I would welcome that opportunity to discuss how we can tackle these issues, given the budget constraints on all services going forward. I hope that helps. Thank you.
Councillor Davis.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the Cabinet Member for that response. And it's very disappointing to hear that so few fixed penalty notices have been issued. It strikes me that despite having clear laws in place around littering and fly tipping, we've learned this afternoon that the Council's approach to enforcement is somewhat inadequate. So will she perhaps commit today, and as part of the seminar that she's committed to investigating whether this authority might take a more aggressive posture to deterring offenders and to protect our public spaces? Will she commit to adopting greater use of surveillance techniques, for example, such as covert cameras to catch offenders in the act? Indeed, she may recall, as part of the last budget cycle but one, this Conservative group, as part of that budget concession, secured those very funds to support surveillance activity to tackle fly tipping across this county. Perhaps she can provide an update on how successful those funds have been deployed in tackling this issue. And finally, Chair, with your indulgence, may I also invite the Cabinet Member to perhaps look at neighbouring authorities and to examine some of the best practice out there. I look at South Gloucestershire, for example, who have already implemented a dash camera footage system which enables local residents to upload footage so that the registered keepers of vehicles can be successfully identified and pursued. Because ultimately, this is an endeavour that's shared across council and indeed with our residents. This council and this authority alone, of course, can't get a grip of this without the support of our local residents. And I welcome if she had any further reflections today or possibly at the next seminar on this very important matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davis. And I think a lot of these ideas can be brought forward, and I really, really welcome as much involvement as possible from all members at the forthcoming seminar as soon as it's been arranged. And I'll certainly get back to you, if you're happy with that, with some information on how that, money, that grant has been utilised in the last year. But thank you.
Thank you. And our sixth question today, also from Councillor Davis to Councillor Grewcoat. Councillor Davis.
Thank you, Chair. To ask the Cabinet Member to provide an update to the parents of the 17 children rejected a place at Gilwan Primary School of how the authority intends to support and accommodate these pupils. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davis. Firstly, I do recognise and feel great sympathy for those families who have not been able to secure a first place school for their children. Those of us who've been parents, many of us, it's something we will have experienced ourselves in our lives. I'm not giving away state secrets, I think, if I say that I didn't get my children into their first place school, and the Chief Officer for Education got his into their third choice school. And we do sympathise and we do know what difficulties it creates, because at a personal level, we've lived through them. But to turn to the specifics of the question about the current situation at Gilwan Primary School. This is a 210-place school with 7 year groups. So those of you who benefited from national curriculum maths will work out that makes 30 children in each class. Those of us who remember the last time a Labour government took over from the Conservatives, Tony Blair was under tremendous pressure to introduce class sizes of 30. It was achieved, and therefore it is something that we stick to as educationally well worthwhile, rather than overcrowding classes that would affect the quality of teaching. And so at Gilwan School, Each of the classes is projected to hold a majority of 30 children. For admission into the reception class in September, the council finds itself in a position where there have been more application requests than there are places available. There are 47 applications for 30 available places. And in such circumstances, the council's school admission policy, which has been agreed following relevant consultation, confirms that the agreed oversubscription criteria is applied. This has regrettably led to 17 children being unable to obtain places in the reception class. Of these 17 children, 7 are in the catchment area. The other 10 children reside within the catchment area of other schools within the Abergavenny cluster of schools.
You only got a few seconds left, Councillor.
Well, I could perhaps give a verbal answer to Councillor Davies, because to go through and explain all 17 is quite a complex reason. I'm setting out the legal basis for 30 children in a class.
Councillors, please don't argue across the chamber. I've said this before. I take your point, and I will allow you a little extra time.
Thank you very much, Chair.
A little extra time.
Chairman, would it be within the interests of every member?
Are you raising a point of order?
I am, yes. I can tell you what section it is, but if the Cabinet member is going to respond to my fellow councillor there in writing or verbal, can we have a copy of that also, please? That's very important as a ward member for that area as well. Thank you.
I'm sure there'll be a record of this answer anyway in the minutes of this meeting. Councillor Grucott.
Okay, I'll read the answer quickly. 4 of the 10 children have sibling links to the school, but reside outside the catchment. And in line with the outcomes of the consultation on the school admissions policy undertaken in 2019 under the previous Conservative administration, children residing within catchment now have priority over those out of catchment, but with sibling links in the school. Officers in the admissions team continue to support the 17 families that have been unsuccessful in obtaining places at Gilwyn Primary School and have identified places for each child at alternative schools. For the 7 children residing in catchment, all 7 children have been offered a place at an alternative preference that was declared by parents on their application form. Bear with me, my answer has just slipped off the screen. The 4 children with sibling links, 2 have been offered alternative preferences, 2 have been offered places in the new King Henry VIII 3-19 school, which is in the cluster. We are aware of the logistical issues for the families that have siblings at different schools potentially, and are keen to work and support with these families to identify alternative schools for whole family groups to attend, should this help relieve family pressures. For those out of catchment with no sibling links, the remaining 6 applicants who live outside catchment, 4 have been offered places at alternative preferences the parents put on their forms, and 2 can be offered places at the new King Henry VIII 3-19 school. The council has been asked to consider admitting all 47 applicants to Gilwyn Primary School. Whilst understanding this request, we must be mindful that the accommodation and associated staffing structure at Gilwyn Primary School is currently suitable for 210 pupils in classes of 30 in a year group.
Councillor Grucott, I'm going to have to stop you there. This has been a very lengthy answer. I would invite you, if there's any to send in writing any further detail of your answer to the questioner.
I will certainly let Councillor Davis know, as have all the parents of the children affected.
Thank you.
May I ask some supplementaries,
please?
Chair? And perhaps you'll provide some similar leeway given the length of the response from the Cabinet member. This is undoubtedly a deeply distressing, as the Cabinet member has observed, a deeply distressing and concerning time for those 17 families who've been left in limbo by this decision, including, incidentally, 2 families in my own ward in Gavilan. And I know, having spoken to the parents group, that they've been comforted and indeed sustained through this difficult period by the support provided by the head, by the governors, by the local member of parliament, and indeed, if I may say so, sustained by the support of the local community. Some 444 local residents have signed a petition supporting these parents in their plight. Now, as the Cabinet member well knows, the current appeals process can be often lengthy and cumbersome, which is only adding to the anxiety and the uncertainty that these poor families are experiencing. It is deeply unsatisfactory, doesn't he agree, that these parents could conceivably wait until July for a possible resolution to their appeal against this decision? Will he commit to fast-tracking these appeals to provide a timely resolution and some closure for these families? And if I may also ask a question about some of the modelling undertaken to predict and to forecast academic or rather admissions demand for Gilwyn. I've seen a letter from officers to one of the parents.
Councillor,
I promise I'll be brief.
Partway through your second question.
This is my final point, I promise you, Chair. I've seen a letter to a local resident noting that data provided by Nairn Bevan Health Board did not foresee that the school would be oversubscribed this year or indeed in future years, when many residents, as the Cabinet member well knows, in Gilwyn are registered to the former Gilwyn GP surgery, which is administered by neighbouring Powys Health Board. Can we have confidence in the modelling that his officials have taken? Will he commit to meet with the parents and re-engage and to examine what other opportunities could
questions. I'm going to have to ask you to stop now.
Well, it's a deeply important issue,
yes,
Chair.
You have nonetheless asked 3 questions.
I would be grateful for the Chair. I would be grateful if the Cabinet could respond to those in turn. Thank you very much.
Chair, I'll try and slip in one hidden answer while answering one question. You can see if you can spot the divide.
You can do that in 3 minutes, that would be fine.
We do have accurate data from the health boards. They do show that this is a freak year in Gilwyn School, and that looking forward, the most future date we've got is 2027, and this is the only year where there is such a spike. Overall, there is room in the school for the number of pupils it has. I cannot make any assurances about fast-tracking hearing because, of course, there is an independent element on the appeals panel. But what I can say is that I will do my best to get the appeals panel assembled at the earliest possible opportunity.
Thank you. And our 7th question today is also from Councillor Davis to Councillor Sandals.
To ask the Cabinet member to provide an update on Monmouthshire County Council's offer to host the 2026 National Eisteddfod.
Diolch I chi am eich cwestiwn, Cynghorydd Davis. Thank you for your question, Councillor Davis. That's my bit. We all know that the 2016 Eisteddfod was a huge success that brought a great deal of positive attention, not least to the celebration of the Welsh language and culture of Monmouthshire. So it's not surprising that there's a great appetite to repeat it. We hope that there will not be another gap of a century before the next one, having noted that the previous to 2016, it was held in Monmouthshire in 1913. However, in answer to your question, having expressed our interest to the body that allocates the venues for the Eisteddfod events, we've been informed that unfortunately we've not been successful in our expression of interest to host an Eisteddfod in the current round up to 2030. However, the good news is that we have been informed that there's a strong possibility that we may be able to host an Urdd Eisteddfod early in the next decade if we are still interested. A final decision is likely to be made by the panel next year, and the Urdd have already indicated their support for Monmouthshire's application. I hope Council agree that this is a fantastic opportunity for Monmouthshire to continue to promote our Welsh language and culture. Diolch yn fawr iawn.
Thank you. Councillor Thomas.
Diolch Cadeirydd, diolch i'r Aelod Cabinet am yr ateb cynhwysfawr hwnnw. It seems only appropriate that we should say a few words of Welsh on the occasion of our annual general meeting and to reaffirm this authority's support for the Welsh language. Whilst I'm clearly disappointed that the Eisteddfod won't be returning any time soon, building on the very positive legacy as the Cabinet members outlined, both in terms of the Welsh language legacy left here in following the Eisteddfod of Fenny, but also in terms of the economic legacy. It's encouraging to hear that the Urdd could conceivably be attracted to Monmouthshire, which I'm sure would command the support of this entire chamber. Diolch o galon.
Thank you. And I'll just come back and say that, you know, there are lots of others in the queue sort of thing, and we've had our turn, so it'd be fantastic if we can get that application in for, you know, potentially 2031. Diolch.
Thank you. And the 8th question, the urgent question from County Councillor Pavia.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Will the Cabinet member provide an update on the development of the new King Henry VIII School?
Thank you, Councillor Pavia. From the sublime to the ridiculous, I refer Councillor Pavia to the extensive briefing note provided to all councillors on Tuesday the 7th of May.
Can I thank the outgoing chair for accepting this urgent question and for the Cabinet member for his very brief response. I appreciate that, and I have seen the briefing. We have seen a significant level of project slippage in relation to the new King Henry VIII 3-19 school, and there will obviously be a consequential impact in relation to the refurbishment of Derry View for Ysgol y Ffin. Now, the project was supposed to be well, the first phase of the project was supposed to be in place to ensure that children in both schools would start the 24-25 academic term in their new or improved facilities. However, with the King Henry VIII slippage, now first phase handover expected to be Easter 25, that will mean that pupils and staff in the 3-19 school will not be able to move until May 2025, right at the start of the exam period. So, you know, this is a situation which will raise concerns for parents and for pupils in both schools, but particularly King Henry VIII School, those who will be taking GCSE exams in 2025, and parents will be justifiably worried about the impact of the delay on their children's education, well-being and potential performance. So what steps is the administration taking to ensure that the additional delay at King Henry VIII will not adversely affect the quality of education or education attainment of pupils in both King Henry VIII and Ysgol y Ffin schools? And what measures will the administration put in place to facilitate that smooth and successful transition to the new and upgraded facilities in May 25?
Thank you. Yeah, Morgan Sindall, who are the main contractors for the development on the site, have really worked incredibly hard. They've increased their staffing. There have been some minor changes to design, so there will be more cladding rather than bricks on the upper part of one of the buildings. But the overall consequence is that there will be a 5-month delay to the handover, and the projected date that we have now agreed with Morgan Sindall is the 17th of April. And I would like to emphasise to members that there is no additional cost involved to this authority. It also means that that will be handing over ahead of the Easter holidays next year. I share the concerns about external exams being disrupted, but the new timetable, which Morgan Sindall are very confident they can deliver with an enhanced workforce, will mean that will not be an issue. And I thank you for raising that, Councillor Pavia.
Thank you. Well done, everybody. That's the end of our questions and the end of this meeting. I'd like to thank you all for your work, especially officers who've supported the meeting and the people who cooked all that gorgeous food that we ate before this meeting. So enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you very much.